Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 36 is now officially in the history books, as right now we're going to go ahead and further dissect, analyze, and break down the events of the latest Dragon Ball Super Tournament of Power Manga Chapter to further understand the events of what is to come as we near ever so closer towards the end of the Universe Survival Arc Tournament, as we gather a better understanding as to what's going to take place between the remaining universes competing in the Tournament of Power. As before we begin, if you guys are new to this channel and of course love Dragon Ball, don't forget to go ahead and punch that subscribe button and enable all notifications to be notified whenever a brand new video is posted onto this channel. Hashtag Dragon Ball Squad as we kick off Dragon Ball Super Manga Chapter number 36 with Vegeta encountering the Pride Troopers. Now what's most interesting is how Vegeta turns around in acknowledging the fact that Jiren had eliminated Hit and saying Jiren defeated Hit, with Toppo having to reply by saying your son Goku will be next. Jiren will never lose to juvenile tricks like that, as Vegeta goes on to reply by saying, oh, so you're the God of Destruction candidate who defeated Kakarot in the Zen exhibition match, with Toppo having to reply by saying I am, and you're supposed to be Universe 7's second best warrior, with Vegeta being so irritated and saying, what? Second best, you say? I'm the strongest fighter in Universe 7. No, in all of existence is me, Vegeta, open your ears. And at that point, Vegeta begins to transform and saying, first, I'll bring down you two fools, since it appears I still need to prove my superiority over Kakarot, as Vegeta transforms into a mastered Super Saiyan Blue without wasting any time in charging towards Dispo and Toppo's direction, as Dispo goes on to state he's got blue hair now too, as of course Vegeta rushes towards Toppo and Dispo and swiping away Dispo with one shot, which I really do enjoy because this never happened in the anime at all, which I'm really happy that we finally get to see a bit of diversity in this manga chapter, because it's not just Vegeta fighting off, you know, second fiddle characters, he's actually going after top tier characters, as then we get to see how Vegeta strikes Toppo and the battle begins. Now, we get to see how in this manga chapter, Super Saiyan Blue Mastered Vegeta looks to be in control of this fight, and I really love how Toriotaro describes this fight in its entirety and seeing how Vegeta is kicking Toppo, Toppo keeps blocking, but Vegeta just keeps kicking Toppo over and over and over again, even after Toppo is blocking off all of his shots, because it just goes to show Toppo's reaction after every single kick, and Vegeta having to swipe in a very good kick and knocking Toppo back, and we see how Toppo goes flying into Dispo's direction, and that's when the trash talking begins, as Vegeta goes on to state, admit it, still think Kakarot is stronger? Well, and that's when Toppo replies by saying, you're on par with Son Goku in terms of sheer power. Yes, but that doesn't mean you have what it takes to defeat us, with Vegeta replying and saying, you leave me no choice but to keep demonstrating my skills then, as Vegeta goes back on the attack and attacking Toppo, and over by Universe 7's stand, we get to see how even Shin goes on to state, look, number 17 is fighting Botamo, with Krillin having to ask, so how are the rest of our friends doing, with Tenshinhan having to reply by saying Vegeta's going toe-to-toe against Toppo, which as we pan to a different sector of the ring, we get to see how Android 17 is going up against Botamo, and just like I stated in my spoiler video, 17's demeanor, 17's actions against Botamo are ruthless. 17 in this entire manga chapter has been ruthless since the beginning, and this is the beginning of 17's fight with Botamo, as Botamo is getting thrashed all around the ring, with Botamo having to look up and saying, that won't work on me, and Piccolo looks on over as he's fighting one of the other individuals from Universe 2, as Piccolo wrung out the individual he battled against and having to come to 17's aid and saying melee attacks are useless against him, 17, so let's just toss him out of the ring together. His whole body is like rubber basically, and 17 not caring, he punches Botamo so hard in the stomach that Botamo gets foddered out of the ring, and I think that nobody should be surprised by this, because by the end of the day, Botamo has proven on two separate occasions that he is complete fodder, so I can't see this character having any fans ever because of the idea that Botamo has been useless since basically day one. So 17 rings out Botamo, and 17 looks behind him and saying, you were saying something? With Piccolo replying by saying, no, never mind, as we see Gohan fighting off some of the Universe 2 and 10 warriors, as we get to see how Piccolo goes on to ask 17, so what sort of training have you been up to anyway? With 17 having to reply by saying, what sort? Just protecting my island, and Gohan having to look behind him and saying, Piccolo, above you, and this entire manga chapter, in my opinion, by the end, looks like it's being written to be rushed, and you guys are going to see exactly why by the end, as we see some of the Universe 10 warriors come crashing crashing on down, and of course it's Napapa. So with Piccolo having to notice this, Piccolo goes on to state a sneak attack. I take it that the sumo wrestlers in your universe haven't heard of dignity or honor, which is very interesting as 17 looks up at the Birdman and saying, that one's still in the game, I have to get rid of him. So he easily just points his finger up and zapping the individual down as Piccolo begins to fight off against Napapa, and we get to see firsthand how the Universe 7 warriors are having the distinct upper hand on Ramush's fighters, because by the end, 17, Gohan, and Piccolo step forth as these fighters are down onto the ground, as 17 looks out and saying, see ya, and he blasts all 3 warriors out of the ring. And I love the diversity and the engagement between 17, Gohan, and Piccolo, because I'm not entirely sure if we saw that in the anime, but this has to be a first, because with 17 having to come in clutch and blasting all 3 out, that was a really cool moment. But then we get to see how Ramush is saying, our universe only has 3 guys left, stop admiring them. And Gowasu goes on to state, Son Goku and Vegeta aren't the only skilled fighters, Universe 7, they're incredible. And Ramush is like, damn it, I don't care. And the only fighters remaining are the last remaining warriors of Universe 10, as Shin goes on to state, at this rate, the ones still left might actually pull off a win, with Shin having a look at Beerus and saying, Lord Beerus, our universe seems to boast some of the best combatants here, as Beerus doesn't seem to be concerned as Piccolo, Gohan, and of course 17 go on the hunt, which elsewhere we get to see how Android 18 is colliding against fat-ass Ribrianne, and I really do enjoy the engagement between the two, because as Android 18 is fighting off against Ribrianne and her friends, we see how all of a sudden Ribrianne goes on to state, stand up, ugly, and that's when 18 looks behind her, because she didn't really know as to who Ribrianne was talking to, with Ribrianne having to say, stop playing dumb, yes, I mean you, and that's when 18's like, huh? And we see how Rosie goes on to state, that ugly is the opposite of beautiful. Maybe she isn't aware of how ugly she is, which is pretty funny because Ribrianne, out of all people, is calling 18 ugly, and Ribrianne is boasting as Ribrianne's partners go on to state, you're 100, no, 1,000 years too early for that. Someone like you standing against super beautiful Lady Ribrianne? And that's when Krillin's like, she's considered beautiful? Maybe in Universe 2, and Whis goes on to state, beauty standards are relative, I suppose. As Ribrianne goes on to state, that is true beauty. As Rosie goes on to state, as you can see, Lady Ribrianne is not only supremely beautiful, but also an incredibly powerful fighter. And Beerus is sitting there and saying, sure, she's a little cute, I guess, which is kind of weird at the same time, but we get to see how Halise turns around and saying, that planet's an exception, shove it. And we see Beerus talking trash to Halise and saying, you seem to be pretty obsessed with beauty, maybe you're not all that into your universe. As back on the ring, 18 goes on to state, ugly, beautiful, none of that's got anything to do with strength, and I'm about to take you down. As Ribrianne goes on to state, on my planet, beauty equals strength. The most beautiful individuals are also the strongest. What a shame. As she goes on to blast 18, but again, 18 does have the upper hand here as Ribrianne goes on the attack, and again, they kept this the same as the anime adaptation and seeing 18 fight Ribrianne and keeping that concept more or less similar, but the outcome of this is actually quite the opposite, as many of you guys may already know, with 18 having to look up and saying, I need a chance to hit back, I have to watch it, as Universe 2 is basically just boasting about their fighters, and we see how all of a sudden 18 gets tangled up and wrapped up by Ribrianne's allies and holding 18 in place. And to that, Ribrianne goes on to state, and now to end this, she jumps on up in the air, and that's when Rosie says, finish her, Lady Ribrianne, and Krillin is going crazy and saying, get off 18, that's just playing dirty. And that's when Ribrianne goes on to state, miracle, particle, recycle, and then she looks down as Krillin is talking, and Ribrianne takes such offense and climbing back down and saying, wait just a minute, is that your gorgeous man? With 18 replying by saying, Kuririn is my husband, got a problem with that? With Ribrianne having to be so enraged and saying, an ugly beast like you is married to such a fine specimen? What did you say? And she's really mad at the idea that she finds Krillin attractive, but 18 horribly ugly. And at that point, she begins to charge up her attack even more, as even Ribrianne's own allies go on to state, his looks are beyond perfection, that bald head and no nose, such pleasingly simple features. And Krillin is just sitting there as as Whis is talking to him and saying, they're calling you handsome, by the way. So Whis is kind of being a troll here, which I really love, and Ribrianne is stating impossible, impossible, damaged hair panic, and she begins to unleash 2 attacks that ultimately backfire because those 2 attacks that she sent off towards 18's direction actually bounce off of her comrades and breaking the grip that they had on Android 18. And now 18 is the one that has the upper hand, because with 18 having to be freed, we see how Ribrianne and her 2 allies are lying down into the ground, as Ribrianne stands up by the edge of the ring and saying, I would rather take this plunge myself. I cannot think of anything less beautiful than defeat by your hands. 18 goes on to state, not sure what your issue is, but if your heart's not in this anymore, then jump off the ledge. And everyone's seemingly concerned about this. Beerus is saying, good work, good work. And Krillin's like, oh man, this is tough, with 18 having to say, have it your way. And Ribrianne is looking down, and she would rather jump than be eliminated, and that's when even Rosie's partners goes on to state, we're in this together, come what may, don't do it, Ribrianne. And that's when Ribrianne goes on to state, fight to the bitter end, you two, it's okay. With the Universe 2 warriors having to basically reconnect with one another and acknowledging each other's beauty, and 18's getting really mad and saying, make up your choice or I'll make it for you. You have 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. Bam! Android 18 gets wrung out from the Tournament of Power. And this is where Universe 4's Gamisars and Daemon come into effect, because the second 18 is wrung out, we see how Ribrianne's allies are just like, what happened? What the heck just went down? And then they end up getting canned from the Tournament of Power too. And that's when Gohan goes on to state, could it be the invisible fighter? And Piccolo goes on to state, what's going on over there? As Krillin goes on to ask 18 what happened, and that's when 18 goes on to state, felt like someone kicked me, I'm not sure. And Ribrianne's like, who's there? Show yourself, excuse you. And she's getting beat up. She's actually getting beat up to the point where she's by the edge of the ring. And so in the manga adaptation, there is no giant fat Ribrianne, but instead, Ribrianne ultimately ends up getting wrung out from the Tournament of Power, because then, as Beerus looks towards Kitella, Kitella goes on to state, stumped are you? Nothing you can do against someone you can't see. It's not against the rules, you know. And Beerus is like, that's just cheap, Kitella using an invisible fighter. And that's when Kitella's like, timing with that one. And we see how the same fighters that Piccolo, Gohan, and 17 were fighting also end up getting wrung out, as we get to see the only person left from Universe 10 is the same warrior that Gohan fought in the anime, who happened to have been the last one remaining. And Piccolo at that point is just like, stay still, wait, hold on, let me figure this out. So Piccolo actually ends up closing his eyes, and he's trying to sense where the invisible fighter is, and to everyone's surprise, Piccolo catches him. So 17's like, you got him? Piccolo agrees and saying, yeah. And that's when we get to see how Kitella looks at Beerus again and saying, because we've got another ace up our sleeve. Keep laughing, Beerus, because Beerus is laughing at Kitella, not knowing that, okay, well, that was the only fighter that we had that was basically at an advantage during the course of this fight, but instead Kitella's like, no, we have more. And then sadly enough, to everyone's surprise, Piccolo ends up actually encountering Daemon, but at first Piccolo goes to strike Daemon but completely misses, gets punched in the gut, and then is wrung out from the Tournament of Power stage, in which Piccolo drops into the void, and Piccolo understands is saying, I sensed them there, but I don't get it. That's when Kuririn's like, what happened? And Piccolo's like, I don't know. And Kitella's like, witness the power of Universe 4. So now we have Daemon on the run, and he's beginning to attack a lot of people, Gohan, 17, and nobody's seemingly able to understand as to what's happening, with 17 having to reply by saying, stay on guard, this foe isn't like anyone else. And that's when 17 gets hit so hard, he goes flying in between Goku and Jiren, which I really do enjoy, because Dispo comes swooping in and saying, we've got an unknown player in the mix, Jiren. And Jiren is looking around, but Jiren doesn't say anything. And that's when Dispo goes on to state, better retreat until we figure out what this guy's deal is. It's not smart to stick around here. And 17 goes on to state, they're taking everyone down. An invisible fighter? And we see how Jiren and Dispo bounce as Goku's talking to 17, with 17 having to say, not just one, Piccolo beat one, but now there's a second one rampaging around, with Goku having to say, invisible fighter? They've got one of those? Like, what the hell? Invisible or not, we can still sense their chi, just focus. And 17 goes on to state, what's more is this one's different somehow. And that's when Goku's like, then how did you find those poachers on the island then? With 17 having to reply by saying, the noisiest humans are pretty obvious. And that's when we see how 17 puts his hair behind his ear and he begins to listen in, as Goku goes on to state, you can pin drop the invisible fighter by sound. That's it, 17. And he begins to listen in, and then finally, to everyone's surprise, we spot little Daemon onto the ground. And I love how 17 is looking down on him and saying, "Found you." And Goku powers down and saying, "Huh? A bug?" And 17 goes on to state, "Invisible or not, it's just too small to see." And Daemon's beginning to run around, he's trying to escape, but 17 actually ends up getting the one shot on Daemon and wringing him out from the Tournament of Power. So there goes Daemon, there goes Gamisaurus, and Goku goes on to state, "It seems like you're knocking out opponents left and right, 17. I knew you'd pull your weight around here," with 17 having to say, "Makes fighting them pretty tough. Sheesh, so many odd fighters." Yeah, I guess not, with Goku having to say, "Not too many left now, huh, 17? As the two Omni Kings are saying, many indeed, many fighters have fallen, many fighters have fallen," as they look down and saying, "Wow, so many fun fights, what fun," as the Daishinkan goes on to state, "Allow me to check how many fighters are left," as we get to see a chart of how many fighters are left in the Tournament of Power, and there doesn't seem to be many at all, as the Daishinkan goes on to state, "And Universe 11 hasn't lost a single fighter yet. 3 remaining fighters from Universe 2, 7 from Universe 3, 4 from Universe 4, 6 from Universe 6, 6 from Universe 7, and 1 from Universe 10. As both Omni Kings go on to beg the question, who will win, as the chapter comes to a close. Now, I love the overall execution of Piccolo, Gohan, and of course 17. I love the execution in seeing other fighters have a chance to battle, but the only thing that I have a problem with is the fact that this manga chapter is seemingly being rushed. I mean, ever since the previous manga chapter with Jiren and Hid, we're finally getting ever so closer to seeing what the other fighters have to offer in terms of quality. Now, I also do believe that since we haven't seen anything from Kale or Caulifla, I think that Kale and Caulifla are going to be doing massive damage in possibly, and I'm only predicting this, in ringing out most of Universe 11's fighters, because I don't know if they're going to introduce Kefla or not in terms of the fusion, but I do have a feeling that once we see Kale go berserk in transforming into the berserker form, she is going to be knocking out people left and right. I think that that's going to pose a huge thing for Kale in making her look dominant as the fight continues. Now, I also think that with the way they're going about utilizing 17 thus far has been great. Obviously, no signs of Frieza, no signs of, Vegeta that much. I love how Vegeta's fighting off Toppo and Dispo, but of course, we still have to wait and see what's going to happen out of that, if Toppo's going to have another form and transforming into the God of Destruction form that we saw in the anime. But in the end, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. I enjoyed this chapter, but there was something about this chapter that I didn't really like, and that was, I think, Ribrianne. I really genuinely don't like the Ribrianne character, or Universe 2 as a whole. I've never been a fan of Universe 2 ever since they were introduced, nor Universe 4 per se, because Universe 4 could have been executed better if they weren't portrayed to be such fodder in the anime. That's why I'm not really digging them too much, but in the end, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below about this manga chapter. Thank you all so very much for watching. Once again, if you guys are new to this channel, don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button, turn on all notifications if you guys are fans of Dragon Ball, love Dragon Ball, slap a like on the video, tune back in for more, check out some of the other Dragon Ball fan mangas, in which I will leave a playlist down below, in which I will be resuming the custom fan-made Dragon Ball mangas next month. Lots of things to talk about, lots of things to cover, so tune back in for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Cue my motherfucking outro, bitch.